This is Dr. John Mack. Welcome to Salt River Truth, where the facts run free. All right, I want to continue my series on where did they come from. And in this particular video, I want to talk about Indigenous Arizona and the Salt River horse herd, understanding the history behind the 1973 finding. Today, I'm going to trace how Akimel and Posh horse breeding and trade shaped herd management along the Salt River. And the through line is simple. As horses became economically essential, control over these animals mattered more, setting up the practices and policies that explain why, by the 1970s, every horse on the Salt River carried a brand. All right, so the Phoenix region was home to essentially in the 19th century three indigenous nations, the Akimel, the Posh, and the Yavapai. All three of these were river peoples tied to the Gila, the Salt, the Verde, and then the Hassayampa River. The Salt River Pima Maricopa Reservation was established in 1879, anchoring horse culture locally and creating a political space where herd management decisions then carried community consequences. And you can see here on this map, this was Lehigh, which of course becomes a Church of Latter-day Saints settlement in the late 19th century. That was a place where the Akimel, and Peeposh had communities along the Salt River, and of course those communities then went down to Sacaton. Both of those indigenous nations primarily had communities that were along the Gila River, but there were some northern communities that lived along the Salt River, and those are the ones that are significant for our discussion. All right, so the horses come into the life of the Akimel, and Peeposh peoples, according to their own oral testimony, via the Spanish. Not directly from the Spanish, but being traded up from the Spanish to the Phoenix Valley. Um, once they were present, then the horses became woven into the daily life of the people. They served effective as transport, agriculture, and of course related to status. Families bred animals that were strong and desert tough. The favorite means, as was reported to me, of transportation for the autumn people was the horse carriage, and as it was relayed to me, wealth was measured by your horses and cattle. Now, it's important to understand that this wasn't casual ownership, it was active stock management to meet community needs and conditions. By the 1850s and after, American settlement increased demand for horses, and the Akimel and Peeposh became important suppliers of horses, especially to the U.S. military during the Apache Wars from the 1860s to the 1880s, and then even after that, going into the 1890s. Because horses now generated income and leverage, people prioritize quality breeding and reliable disposition, raising the stakes for identifying, recovering, and protecting specific animals. Control mattered because livelihood depended on it. Now, undoubtedly, as we know, horses are escaped artists. And so we can look back into history. In the 18th century, horses are escaping during the raids that are going on as the Quechua, the Apache, and the Yavapai are raiding the settlement communities of the Akimel, and the Peeposh. Then, of course, back in the day when there were those violent monsoons that we long for but have yet to see this year, then the storms and the floods would also allow horses to escape. So there was this repetitive pattern of escape, and recapture. Um, this, of course, then begins to change as the Akimel, and the Peeposh are pushed onto the reservation. More and more people come to the valley, so the spaces available for escaped horses shrink. And then, very significantly, barbed wire comes to the valley in the late 1870s, early 1880s, and barbed wire then transforms really the life of Indian stock breeders. Indian agents actively encouraged Indian stockmen to use barbed wire, and of course, they are much better able to control the horse population when they have barbed wire. And so then that becomes very important. The open range shrank and expectations around ownership and recovery hardened. They began to brand their horses, we know, beginning in the 1870s to establish ownership. So when horses are valuable trade assets, you need to prove which animal is yours and get it back. So practices that mark, trade, and claim animals become essential, and branding then emerges here as a rational tool of control. So put together then, if we look at this brief overview, community breeding, trade dependence, and a long history of recovering valuable animals, you can understand why there is an imperative to establish control over the horse population. All of the horses on the Salt River were branded. Branding operationalized ownership, recovery, and herd management in a landscape where horses held cultural and economic weight. And it helps then us better understand this 1973 governmental finding. All right, in the next installment of Where Did They Come From, I'm going to talk about the influence of white settlers on the horse population and then begin to talk to you about the history of the lower Salt. So please join us to learn more, saltrivertruth.com, our Salt River Truth Facebook group, and then click subscribe on this video